let's go down the line. If we can just introduce ourselves, name, ministry, a little bit about your work, and we'll go from there.
Praise the Lord. My name's Prince Drambi Joseph. My wife and I, we pastor a church in Garland, Texas called Great Grace Gospel Church. And our church is 6 years old.
My name is Victor Powell, and I pastor in Albany, Georgia. Have been in ministry over 40 years, and pastor January coming will be 35 years there in Albany, Georgia. A church that has really kind of, by the grace of God, maintained vibrancy, and God has given us real presence in our region, so we're grateful.
My name is Benjamin Robinson. I'm the pastor of Lineage Church in El Cerrito, California, in the Bay Area. And this past January, we celebrated 20 years.
Wow, that went quick. Well, congratulations. All right, so we're talking about generational perspectives. And so we've had a lot of that discussion already this morning, but we can continue on with it because one of the things that we talked about in our pre-talk was the fact that some of us are pastoring churches with multiple generations. Some of us are pastoring churches with maybe a couple. I have this one gentleman in Chicago. His entire church is millennial. Everybody, with the exception of maybe a handful, maybe 5 people. Interesting phenomenon because we're seeing those churches move a little differently. But I think the skill set required to minister to multiple generations is a little bit different. And so since we have Bishop Powell, who's pastoring 5 generations for a number of years, why don't we start here and just kind of talk about your experience with those various generations?
It's been an interesting journey because I was telling Bishop earlier, when you start contending with, we are a millennial generation. We're millennium, and which has been kind of the main concept that you hear. And I looked up and I saw that the main population of our church is millennial. I wrote them all down: millennial, baby boomers, and Generation X. Then I looked around and I said, we still have some silent generational people, which is traditional people. Then I looked around and said, wow, we got Zers and we got Alphas. So literally, and then I did a research that this is the first time in history where we've had 5 or more generations living at the same exact time. Then you research, you'll find that people are living longer. So then what happened in my mind, how can we give voice and value to everyone that's sitting there? Because if you focus on the millennials, you exclude another group of people. Then you find out, this will resonate with all of you, then you find out who gives the most money. Okay, that's another question. Okay. And then you start saying, oh, you better wake up real quick here. And
So who gives the most money? I'm curious. It's a legitimate question.
It's a legitimate question.
No, say it from your perspective.
It is not the millennials.
From your experience. Let's hear it.
It is not the, I'm sorry.
I want to know.
It is not the millennials. And not because they don't want to give. It is only because they're still matriculating through their careers. They're still deciding on what they want to do with their money. The previous pastor just shared, they're still focusing on money, not purpose a lot of times. And so you still have that matriculation of development, what they're going to do with their tithe. Your biggest givers are Generation X and Boomers.
Okay.
But you can't focus on them only. So you have to give voice and value to all those generations.
So I want a rebuttal from Benjamin.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's a rebuttal. It's just that hasn't been my experience. My experience has just been different.
Absolutely.
I think your mic is off. Try to see if it's
Millennials. Yes.
Testing 1, 2, 3. All right, that one's dead. My experience has just been different. I've got some, probably the number one giver population in my church are the millennials. I'd say the boomers and the Gen Xers give more per capita, but the millennials are a bigger group in the congregation. But I was shocked because we looked over we did a capital funds campaign, and we did a $3.5 million refurb on our facility. And the number one givers, the number one contributors to that even per capita, were the millennials.
See, that's the reason I want to swing it your way. I think the narratives that we hear put forth, we grab them, we run with it without investigating, exploring, not antagonize, but anyway, y'all get it. But there are churches, the millennial church that I spoke of, they got big bank. They have no money problems. They do whatever they want to do. They buy all of the technology. They hire all the staff that they want to do. So I'm not sure that that's totally true.
Well, I think it's his experience, and I think it's
demographics also. I think it's demographics too.
Grab that mic.
I think demographics has a lot to do with it too, because again, remember, people are living longer, so you're dealing with Albany, Georgia is a trans-local area where you have all these people moving in and out. We are losing a lot of our millennials because of economics, because of job development. Jewel Faison is back there. She can attest to that. A lot of our college folk who graduate, they leave our city, so we're on this challenge to recruit and retain. So it's not because, and let me correct something, it's not that our millennials don't give. It's that that if you have a 5-generation church, you've got to focus on all 5 of those generations, and you can't get up and say, we're just a millennial church. We're a young church. You will alienate the other people, so you have to be inclusive. But our millennials do give, but many of them are still in our demographic. They are matriculating through their careers. They're still deciding. You think I'm a baby boomer. I've made my decision to tithe and to give.
Yeah.
Where many of them are still, they're getting challenged. And they're really trying to decide if that's really the way they want to go.
And
so
I
that's
think
been
we
my experience.
received a way of being, and we accepted that and fell into that rhythm where it appears that millennials think more deeply about these things and take a little bit more time to kind of get into that rhythm.
I would say your millennials are going to probably move on, and they transition much quicker and much easier than a boomer or a Gen Xer. A Gen Xer is, especially a boomer, they're going to want to stick around. They're committed. Millennials will move out of the area. They'll get another job. They change jobs every couple years, and so they're a lot more mobile.
Pastor Prince, you're a millennial, yeah? Or did you miss it by a hair?
Yes, sir.
All right. Go ahead and talk about it. Your experience.
I think it all depends on the church you pastor and the kind of training you provide to your people. That will determine how they respond. Like for my church, I think I have one 82-year-old, and then I have a lot of people in their 60s and 50s, and then people within my age group in their 40s, and then we have a lot of people in their 20s and all that. And one thing I notice is that like people in their 60s, right, with
Let me put you between these two.
Easy. With maybe 20-year-olds, maybe they have children that are 20-year-olds. So those ones who are givers, their 20-year-olds also give. So they find a way to teach them the principles of tithing, etc.
Good,
So,
good.
yeah, I think same like what he said, the baby boomers, even in our church, they give more than the millennials.
Right.
The only problem, though, with sometimes people who give more, they have strong opinions.
They want control as well. Bishop Powell, what are some of the other things that you have to navigate in a 5-generational church? Beyond the finances, what else do you have to navigate?
Beyond the finances is that it's difficult to give everybody a platform, everyone a platform, but you can give everyone a voice. And one of the ways that we did, okay, for instance, a few weeks ago, because we knew the college kids was getting ready to go on their break, we did a round table with the college folk. We let the college people lead that group. Then they had a chance to ask a few questions and dialogue, communication, giving value. So it's giving value and voice to everyone, but finding those specific places, because there's that, everybody don't want a mic, but everybody does want a voice. So having those connections, those we called them back in the day fellowships, but having those circles where you have people can talk, gather, enter into some of the functions that they do, show up, be there. They want value. That's the most important thing. They want a voice and they want value and they want to feel significant and maximizing their gifts. You don't ever you can age, but your gift is still relevant and fresh. So how do you do that? So that's some of the things that we do.
So you're feeling about 2 young pastors. I'd like to hear how you navigate that as well.
Yeah, I think there's this tension of one of the issues that we've been dealing with in our church is music volume. So the young people are always saying, pump that up, pump that up, pump that up, turn that higher, turn that. And then the older people are saying, you're driving people out of the church with the volume of the. So, I'm constantly working with the sound man to find the maximal minimal volume. It's like, right? It's like the maximal minimum volume that we could have it in, that's loud enough for the young people and soft enough for the older. But what's crazy is that the oldest member of our congregation, we call her Mother Boyd, and I think she's 136 years old. I'm exaggerating.
We hope.
It can't get loud enough for her. Now, probably because she's lost a considerable amount of her hearing, but she has them roll her wheelchair up to the altar, and she's just sitting in her wheelchair going to town. She loves it. You know what I mean? But, that's one example of the generational tension.
Yeah. Pastor Prince, how about yourself? Your unique challenges to your house.
Yes, sir.
And pull your mic up just a bit so we can get you recorded.
Yeah, I think this challenge was recent. Someone suggested that we put off the light at the back and then focus more light on the stage, etc. The older generation, they had serious problems with that and all that. So I don't know. I didn't know how to address it. The young people, they love it. The old people, they love it. They don't like it. I said, what am I going to do? I'm in the middle. I just said, you know what? I'm just going to leave it alone. And if the ushers put off the light, that's it. If the people complain, maybe I'll refer them to Pastor Tim, one of my pastors, etc. But the whole thing just died down. So now we permanently put off the lights, and then focus more light on the stage, etc. So these are the few challenges we are facing.
I think kind of to summarize the tension, in pastoral ministry, there's this pressure that we senior pastors, when we start in the ministry, we're risk takers. But as the church grows and matures, the pressure upon us is to become caretakers. And what happens is that if we submit to that pressure to become caretakers, eventually we become undertakers. Where our only job is to bury. And this is what happened at the church I grew up at. The older people, the older they got, they continued to demand that things continue to be the way we want them. And what happened is we just lost generation after generation after generation of young people until now the pastor there, his only job is to do funerals.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens. It happens.
And so we have to continue to be risk takers. We have to demand.
Sure, sure. Stay creative. Bishop, you do technology. I've seen you on social media. I've seen you do some real creative things with video. So how's that landing for the generations?
Real interesting because I do an executive meeting once a week. This is like almost like religiously. And I intentionally, the growth is not accidental in terms of multi-generational. It is very intentional. And it's intentional from the leader, particularly a baby boomer like myself. So I invite to that table and give voice to all the I have a college kid there, 2. I have 2, 3 of every generation that I just named at the table. The only person that's not at the table, the oldest person is 66 years old. So I don't have a traditional, which is the silent generation. When it gets dark, they don't come out. Okay, so I'm entering that season too. Okay, anyway, and so I invite them to the table. I give voice to them, their ideas. Now, the major thing that I've had to deal with as a leader, as a baby boomer, is to deal with my trauma that causes fear of people. Because one of the things that we don't deal with as a whole, I haven't. Let me just talk personally, Victor Powell, so I won't generalize, is that I had to deal with my trauma. I had to deal with my trauma of fear of people, fear that if it's not done my way, it's not done the right way. I had to really address, and so someone talked about earlier, I hear about 5 or 6 years ago, a little bit longer than that, I went to therapy. I started getting counseling. Here I was, the pastor, getting counseling, getting therapy, so that I could grow, so that the thing that was assigned to me would not become a burial site. Good. So I had to deal with my trauma so that, because in many cases in the circles that I was brought up in ministry, preachers feared the future, and they feared young people. They feared someone was going to take over. They feared that somebody was going to split their church. And it could come from family, it could come from their background, it could come from their ministry background. So they have to really, really address those fears in counseling so that you don't mind hearing from a 20-year-old and you don't think he or she immediately is trying to take your job.
Benjamin, the TikTok generation, the TikTok pastoring, talk to us about that. And we'll wrap up, just kind of talk about the technology.
Yeah, you know, TikTok is an interesting space, not just TikTok, but Instagram, so the social media space. And really what's happening is this whole concept of shorts, understanding how to communicate a message in 90 seconds or less using viral hooks. And so what I'm finding is that I'm finding these individuals who are not even pastors, who are just young people, who are actually communicating the gospel more effectively to the next generation than all of us pastors. And I watch them, I'm like, man, I might not even agree with the message, but the way she communicated that, look, there's millions of young people that are following and listening and talking about their faith in the comments of this 90-second short. Now, you know, we might cry about the minuscule attention span of this next generation, but we can't change it. It is what it is. And so I think speaking for myself, I feel like I've fallen way behind in understanding how to articulate the gospel in a way that this generation can hear in that
Pastor
regard.
Prince has been really working to develop his social media presence, various platforms.
Yes, sir. It's a lot. You make a lot of money from it if you understand it. You know, you would be able to preach the gospel without keeping 9 to 5, just leveraging on social media. So I actually went to school for it because the guy teaching me is making like 100,000 a month just by sharing content. He's an evangelist. That's all he does, and it's really good. So you can build doctrine with 90-second clip, but it's an advertisement. You know, if I'm able to spark your curiosity with my 90 seconds video, you know, you would come for my 15-minute video. And then if you are able to stay through the 15 minutes, then you can come for my 30 minutes. So it's a strategy, it's a whole strategy. And I think if the church can leverage that space, because this is free money, you know, and, you know, people are making use of it, and, you know, we have the message.
So there's
that
an
is
economic
effective.
advantage in addition to the fact that you're opening your ministry up to many, many people who may not have been in touch with your ministry before. And then when we talk about the shorts in those small segments, now you're tapping into the short attention span of a generation, which is a reality that's not going to change. So you get a 2-for, if not a 3-for for that. But at the end of the day, it's a good way to expand the reach of ministry and the kingdom of God. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good, good.
Yeah, we actually have to, we hired somebody, our church, we're paying this guy every month, you know, just to take my messages, you know, because, you know, you may not have time to do that as a pastor, but there's this guy in Africa who would do it for maybe $100 a month.
Yes.
You know, he can generate like 60 shots for me out of one message. So every month he will just put it on Facebook. If I tell him I want 4 shirts on Facebook every day or on my YouTube every day, it's right there.
There you go.
You know, and
There you go.
if you have a reliable team,
So
know,
you
in
so you
time-
do know that you just spoke in tongues to half the room, right? I'm just saying. So it's yeah. So that's a whole other conference.
I want to raise the possibility that of genetics, that we came into this world ignorant, didn't know anything. Everything that we know, we have learned or acquired. So there's a difference between what's acquired and what's inherited. Is there a possibility that all behavior and misbehavior is a doctrinal issue? It's what we believe, our perceptions, and our understanding. And is there a possibility that we have bought into a false presupposition that we can label generations and people or races or groups by the way they respond consistently? That we have put things in categories. I'm just saying that, is there a possibility that there's been a conspiracy that didn't come from above, that it came from beneath? Because then, when that happens, then we find ourselves spending time and being perplexed and confused and trying to manage something that strategically has been introduced to us. Now, if that is the case, then maybe our perspective of not trying to manage all these differences will be simply to start stating more what is the norm, the creational norm. And what we're seeing right now are just distortions. Am I speaking Greek or Hebrew? Absolutely. I'm on the right? Okay. Now, if that is the case, then my thought is that we probably need to get back to, rather than just trying to manage all the distortion, rather than assume that they are normal, which they're abnormal, and then assume also that the presupposition that you think the same because it's just generation, like millennial, because I don't find any of that in Scripture, but just because it's not there don't mean that it's wrong. But it does raise the possibility that maybe our approach to this might need to be different. Because we're talking about managing something that would never go away. And so I just want to suggest the possibility that what we're dealing with right now are all aberrations. They're all abnormalities. They're all distortions of truth. And you don't manage sin by stroking it. You manage sin like you manage a lie by dealing with truth. I'm just saying if that's a possibility, then it looks that our approach might be a little bit different.
So, Archbishop, are you saying that the multi-generational gospel kind of kingdom approach, there is some error to that?
I'm saying not some error.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm saying all error.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When he said the kingdom is like a net, you throw it out, you bring in all kind of fish. I recognize there are distinctions based upon gender. I do recognize that.
Yes, sir.
Between men, all of that. There are distinctions based upon age. There are distinctions based upon experience. There's the learned, there's the unlearned. You understand? All of that. Okay, there's the old, there's the young. I'm not eliminating the distinctions, but I'm saying that if we allow people and their experiences to create these categories, they will find that our gospel and our message is sectarian. I'm using the right word. It's sectional
Yes,
kind of
sir.
thing.
Yes, sir.
So I want to just submit the idea that what we're dealing with, the solution, is possible. But maybe our approach, what we're looking at right now, might be what whoever introduced this want us to do. In fact, we're going down a trail right now, and I'm being resisted as I say this in this room right now. I'm being resisted. Minds are saying, "No, old man, you don't know what you're talking about." But
Yes,
I
sir.
do.
Yes, sir.
I do.
Yes,
I understand
sir.
what I'm talking
Yes,
about.
sir.
I believe there's only one gospel. There's not a gospel to the millennials. There's not a gospel to the X, the Z, the Y, and all of that. And because I think I'm the oldest in the room.
Yes, sir.
But that doesn't mean that I know everything. at all.
Absolutely.
So I believe in engaging all of the differences, all the different levels of experiences, etc. But what is our ultimate goal? I think he prayed a prayer, Father, make them one. Oneness and sameness are not synonymous. Just we can be one and not the same. But at least we must be in agreement in terms of our priorities, our objectives, and where we're going. And so that means that we're being compelled, number one, to do something that probably we might have got away from a little bit. That's preach the word, be instant in season and out of season.
And y'all give it up for Archbishop. Something that Archbishop said to me 20-something years ago, and he was my age 20-something years ago. Okay, he was my age 20-something years ago. And he said to me, he said, good bishop, take advantage of me because I won't be here long.
Yes, sir.
And since that day, there has been in the church this eliminate the wisdom.
That's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Don't open that can.
And I am saying that the wisdom that Archbishop just shared is he's saying inclusion of all people,
Yeah.
and every human being, with no matter when they were born, need the one truth, the gospel of the kingdom.
Good
And
close.
so, yes.
Bishop Benjamin Robinson, Bishop Victor Powell, and Apostle Prince Joseph.
Go to your seat. Amen. God
Thank
bless
you so much.